Because when you think about Grüne Veltliner, you have in Austria. This is like the category you're looking for. It's like this golden middle of the Grüne Veltliner, where it combines this young, fresh character with a nice volume. So you can nearly pair it with any dish, but also like just enjoy it on a hot summer day on the terrace.
Let it roll.
Γεια σας και καλώς ήρθατε στο 5ο επεισόδιο της δεύτερης σεζόν εδώ στο Κελάρι. Είμαι η Σοφία Τσίκου και σήμερα είναι ένα πολύ ιδιαίτερο επεισόδιο για εμένα και ελπίζω και για εσάς. Πριν σας αποκαλύψω όμως τι θα γίνει, θα ήθελα να σας ζητήσω να κάνετε για άλλη μια φορά subscribe στο κανάλι μας στο YouTube, να μας κάνετε follow στο Instagram και να θυμάστε ότι μπορείτε να μας ακούσετε και στο Spotify. Σήμερα, όπως σας είπα, θα είναι ένα ιδιαίτερο επεισόδιο, γιατί έχω έναν πολύ ιδιαίτερο καλεσμένο, ο οποίος θα μας πάρει από τα ελληνικά εδάφη και θα μας ταξιδέψει σε αυτά της Αυστρίας. Θα ήθελα να πω ένα πολύ μεγάλο ευχαριστώ στην εισαγωγική εταιρεία Deals SA, τον κύριο Γιώργο Λούκα και φυσικά την αγαπημένη μου Βάνα Δημητροπούλου που το οργάνωσε όλο αυτό και απάντησε στα ατελείωτα τηλεφωνήματά μου για να καταφέρουμε να το οργανώσουμε. Απέναντι μου κάθεται ένας πολύ γνωστός άνθρωπος, γνωστός τουλάχιστον σε εμάς που ασχολούμαστε λίγο παραπάνω με το κρασί, είναι ο παραγωγός του οινοποιείου Nigl από το Kremstal της Αυστρίας, ο κύριος Martin Nigl. Φυσικά η συνέντευξή μας θα γίνει στα αγγλικά, οπότε θα μου επιτρέψετε να ξεκινήσω έτσι. Hi Martin. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to see you again. We had a tasting the other day that I quite enjoyed it with your wines. Tell me, is your first time here in Greece, in Athens?
Yes, it's the first time in Athens, but when I was a child, we did a holiday in Crete.
In Crete?
Yeah.
Okay. You remember in which part?
No, it's so long ago. So you do that. It's basically the first time here in Athens, and we really enjoyed the time here.
Did you get the chance to visit the city, or you just doing tastings?
Yeah, in the morning we had like perfect weather, and we visited the Acropolis and also like the temple of Hephaestus. And
Oh, you went all the way up?
yes.
Okay.
But in Austria it's currently quite cold, and here we had like really perfect weather to actually do a little bit of sightseeing as well.
Well, it's the opposite. It's really starting to getting cold for us here. But for you, what kind of level of degrees is there now in Austria?
Some days we have in the morning like -1 or -2 degrees. In some areas in Austria we already got snow, but during the day it's a little bit depending, like maybe like 10 degrees, 8 degrees. Yeah.
Yeah,
like that.
I surely couldn't live there, for sure. I like the sunny weather that we have here. Okay. So tell me a few things about the winery. If I take the plane and land to Vienna, what do I do next to visit the winery?
The easiest is if you go by train and travel from Vienna for like around 1 hour to the city of Krems. And we are located in a side valley of the Danube River, like 7 kilometers west from the city of Krems. And when you arrive in Krems, you maybe take the bus or go by taxi to see the winery, because we are on the border of the wine growing area. So the public transfers, we do it best, have the best infrastructure with the public transfer.
So when the winery started, in 1995, if I'm correct?
No, my father started the winery in 1984. And my grandfather already had some vineyards, but he had like a mixed agriculture with like 3 hectares of vineyards, but he brought the grapes to the cooperative in Krems. And, we also had some chicken and cow. And my father, after graduating at the Federal College for Viticulture and Pomology in Klosterneuburg, started just focusing on wine. And at that time, it was actually a pretty good time to develop as a winery, because nowadays it's actually really hard to get vineyards in like the best sites or single vineyards, and to do that it was a good time to develop. and we're in Senftenberg in former times. Wasn't the most popular part of the wine growing area because you have to imagine at that time the climate or the ripening in general for the grapes was a lot cooler, and in certain vintage, so I'm 1996, which was a very cool vintage in Austria. In certain vintages there, the grapes just got ripe or maybe didn't get ripe. And with the climate change, we are now came from the border of the wine growing area into the focus of the wine growing area, because now the ripening isn't the limitation anymore. Now the grapes get ripe every year without losing this nice refreshing character because of the cooler climate in Senftenberg.
Do you remember the switch when happened this whole climate change that helped the grapes ripe quite earlier?
I think it was more like a process. It wasn't from one to the other year, but I think like when now we have some single vineyard wines, and these wines were picked in the 90s, for example, like in the beginning or middle of November, and we just got like maybe 11.5 or 12% alcohol. And nowadays, when we pick really late, we have a lot higher alcohol levels. So really see the changes from the climate. We have a lot warmer temperatures during the summer months. And I think the were like the first warmer years were like the vintages 2000 or 2006, where we got very, very high sugar ripening. But I guess like the last maybe like 10 years, the ripening or the sugar ripening of the grapes was not the biggest challenge. It was more the challenge to actually pick on time, especially for the classic range wines. That you still have a good freshness in the wine and not too much alcohol. So you keep the freshness, and in Austria this is like the most popular category. So these wines that work very well with food, but you can also enjoy just on a hot summer day on the terrace with a certain kind of lightness.
Okay, we'll get to that. But as I told you, we want to take it from the start to say some basic things for the audience that we have. So let's start by telling us what kind of varieties do you produce?
So our two main varieties are Grüner Veltliner and Riesling. This is like 80% of the production. But we also have like, maybe it's like 10% of the production is like Sauvignon Blanc, Gelber Muscatella and Chardonnay. In our area, like normally I always say Grüner Veltliner and Riesling are like the two typical varieties for the Kremstal area. And all the other varieties are more like a special hobby for the winemakers itself, because these are varieties that we really like. And we also have like 10% red varieties like Pinot Noir and Merlot and Zweigelt. And my father was always a big Pinot lover. That's the reason why he planted it. And I think it's also a variety that works very, very well in the cooler climates. And the varieties Gelber Muscatella and Sauvignon Blanc are two varieties that my grandfather already cultivated. When you go to Austria, you have like three main wine growing areas. You have Lower Austria, where the Kremstal is located, where you find mainly Grüner Veltliner and Riesling. Then you have Styria, where these two varieties are typical. So you have in Styria, you find mainly Gelber Muscatella, Sauvignon Blanc, and a little bit of Chardonnay. But in Styria, it's called Morillon. And you have also like the eastern part, the Burgenland, which has a main focus on like the Burgundy varieties, but also like a lot of red varieties like Braufränkisch, which is also an Austrian variety that is that's bringing very, very nice red wines. And I think because of the history that we have with Gelber Muscatella and Sauvignon Blanc in our winery, that's the reason why we continue to produce it, because when my father started, he already had these two vineyards, and my grandfather used to sometimes, do some wine for like the drinking at home, and he always put or picked together the Gelber Muscatella and the Sauvignon Blanc, and then in Austria we called it the Schmeckata. Schmeckata means like the tasty one, because it's from these two very aromatic varieties.
Okay.
You got a very light and fruity wine. And my father just started doing a single Sauvignon Blanc and Gelber Muscatella.
So tell me a little bit more about this history. that your family has in winemaking?
You know, we are actually a very young winery. Sometimes people think our winery is extremely old because we have a restaurant that is located in a old mansion from the 12th century, and in former times it was used as a winery. But when my father bought this house in 1999, it was not in the best condition, so we had to actually restore a lot. And at that time, we decided, or my father decided, to put 12 rooms there, and also a restaurant. And my father, as I said before, started the winery in 1985, but you have to imagine that he started very, very small. So I think the first year he started producing wine in the cellar of my grandfather's house, where he grew up, and you know, everything grew time by time. So we built the cellar, and then the next part, you know, just evolved slowly. And this was for us a new development. And now, like the whole companies or the winery is a family business. So we last year finished building some new rooms. So now we have 27 rooms in the wellness area as well. But my older brother is running the restaurant and the hotel.
Yeah.
He's a chef. He's also taking care of the kitchen, and we have a very good team.
So tell me if I'm right. So in the winery, you have 12 rooms, you said?
In the old building, yes.
In the old building, you have a hotel.
Yes.
And you have a restaurant as well.
Yes.
All in the same area?
Yeah, it's, in Austria, we have like this old building, and then when we built the new hotel, we did a little bit of digging and built 2 tunnels through the street, because there's a street up to the church, and on the other side of the 2 tunnels, you find the hotel. So you can go from the old building to the new building through the tunnels, and it's connected. And the old building, we couldn't do a direct connection to the restaurant, because it's like this old building, and I think it's important to keep the old character of the building alive, and due to that we couldn't connect it. Yeah.
Okay. What did you study?
I studied at the Federal College of Viticulture and Pomology in Klosterneuburg, but I started attending with 14 years old, and you have like in the first couple of years you have like a theoretical part. You're more like into biology, chemistry, and stuff like that. And after I would say with the third year you're going more into this enology part, where you have like winemaking and also like focusing on the vineyard. But we also had like pomology, so we also learned a lot about cutting trees, cultivating apples and stuff like that. So it was, I think it was a very good education, just to learn how certain plants or trees or wines really work.
You said you started at the age of 14?
Yeah.
The education?
Yes.
You don't go to school as...
You have like both combined. It's like you have like when other people had like other subjects, we had like wine growing and pomology, but we also had like English, German, mathematics and stuff like that. It was like combined.
You can do that?
Yeah.
And you took a degree?
Yes.
At this age?
Yeah. It's
because here in Greece we're forced to finish school and then we get the chance to study something, get a degree.
Yes. Now we can do a final exam, and then you can also like go to a university and do this, but you can also combine it. These are for like different things. You can also do it for like there's a school for like hospitality and tourism and stuff like that. So they take 1 year longer. They take 5 years. If you do normal school, it's just like 4 years until you graduated. And we also during the summer months are always doing internships. So I worked at a couple of wineries. Just to get more experienced.
Even if you're minus 18 years old?
Yes,
you can do internship?
Yes.
That pays you or not?
Yes.
Okay. That's a quite rare thing for us. Okay. We don't do that here. Sometimes we don't even get paid in the internship, even if we're above 18 years old. That's nice. Wow. That's a beautiful system because it allows you to see if you like something from very young age or not. That's real nice. So, what was the age when you first tasted a wine?
I think I can't remember, but I guess,
Around 2 years old?
I think when you grow up in a winery at a certain point, you try some wines, yeah. But I think in our area, it's very, because it's a wine growing area, it's you also when at a younger age, when many people are not so much into wine, or I think in our area when you go out, you always drink wine, and it's very focused on wine. There are a lot of people that are drinking like some cocktails or stuff like that, but I think in the wine growing areas, there's the people are really into wine, and I think when you grow up with this kind of culture, because I see it in many other areas that many people are drinking like beer or cocktails, I think you get a very nice way to learn more about wines, and we have a very good community of wine producers, of young winemakers, where we try a lot of wines and discuss it, and I think that's very important actually to develop and learn more about wines, also nationally but internationally as well.
Did it ever cross your mind to study something else? To do something else as a profession?
Not really, no. I think when I grew up in the winery, I don't know. I never thought really about this. It's, for me it was very clear that my father attended close to Neuburg, and I also attended the Federal College of Viticulture. So for me, that at a very early age, I know I wanted to do this.
So I would like to bring some wines in the discussion so we can open them and taste them. So we can talk a little bit more about the varieties. So just give me a minute. Εννοείται ότι θα πάω στον συντηρητή μας, της Masterzen, που διατηρεί υπέροχα αυτά τα κρασιά που ήρθαν από την Αυστρία μόνο για εμάς. Επιστρέφω αμέσως. Λοιπόν, επέστρεψα. Θα δοκιμάσουμε ένα Gruner Veltliner. Did I say it right?
Yes, Gruner Veltliner, yes.
The pronunciation is always very hard for me. The names that you have there. Και ένα Pinot Noir. So, let me serve you. Tell us a little bit more about this variety.
Gruner Veltliner is like the Austrian variety. I think it's a very nice variety because it always shows a lot of different faces. It's a variety with a lot of different characteristics. Now with the Gärtling, we have a very typical Gruner Veltliner. Because when you think about Gruner Veltliner, you have in Austria, this is like the category you're looking for. It's like this golden middle of the Gruner Veltliner, where it combines this young, fresh character with a nice volume. So you can nearly pair it with any dish, but also like just enjoy it on a hot summer day on the terrace. But Gruner Veltliner in general goes from very light, easy to drinking wines until very powerful single vineyard wines. And it also works very well for sweet wines, because especially for Iceland, because the grapes stay healthy for quite a long time. So it's fits for many different things.
We will talk about what ice wine is and all these things, but in this podcast, we always serve the others wine as well. So give a minute to serve our beautiful audience that is in the back. We have Stamatis, Gloria and Vanna. So θα πιούνε και αυτοί εννοείται. Γι' αυτό ήρθαν εδώ πέρα για να πιούνε κρασί. At what time of the day do you drink wine usually?
For breakfast.
For breakfast? That's what I wanted to ask.
This is a wine for day drinking, the Gärtling.
Now that the others have wine as well, I would like for you... Cheers, first of all. Εννοείται ότι έχουμε διαλέξει συγκεκριμένα ποτήρια για να πιούμε αυτή την ποικιλία. Βάνα μου, τι ποτήρια έχουμε?
Είναι το ποτήρι Riesling της σειράς Veloce από τη Riedel.
Το ποτήρι Riesling από τη σειρά Veloce, από τη Dils. Και από την εταιρεία Riedel. Εννοείται. Κάποια στιγμή θα κάνουμε ένα επεισόδιο που θα εξηγούμε γιατί διαλέγουμε κάποια συγκεκριμένα ποτήρια για κάποιες συγκεκριμένες ποικιλίες, γιατί δεν κάνουν όλα τα ποτήρια για όλες τις ποικιλίες. Επομένως, έχουμε και διαφορετικό ποτήρι για το Pinot Noir που θα δοκιμάσουμε μετά, γιατί η κάθε ποικιλία έχει ξεχωριστά αρώματα τα οποία αναδύονται ανάλογα με το ποτήρι που κρατάς στα χέρια σου. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. I was explaining why it's very important to take a specific type of glass and the shape of it in order to understand fully the expression of aromas of each variety.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the choice of the glass is very, very important. For Gruner Veltliner, it's sometimes not that easy because for this lighter style of Gruner Veltliner, I think these glasses work perfectly. For the more powerful styles, I also sometimes like a little bit bigger glasses, just to have a little bit more aeration, especially when the wines are a little bit younger. Because you just open the wine a little bit more if there is more oxygen coming. And I think, we have, as I said before, we have the lighter styles, but the more powerful styles are normally wines that you can really keep for quite a long time in store. I think I really like Gruner Veltliner in that category when they are like 5 to 15 years old, because after a certain time period, the primary fruit is a little bit more settled.
Okay.
And you get more like this tobacco spiciness and more like a little bit more creaminess in the wine. And then that's for me a time where the wine is perfect to drink with a little bit more powerful or combined with a little bit more powerful cuisine, like dishes where you would normally take a red wine, like maybe like goose or duck, or maybe also like deer.
You say that if it's not that fresh,
Yes,
we can pair it with this kind of food.
Yes, and for me the Gärtling is now like, for us it's like the most universal wine. If you have like I think it's a wine that works very well when you have like white meat, seafood, fish, like a light summer salad or something like that. And as I said before, it's also a wine that you typically, normally when you sit outside in the guest garden or on a terrace, it's just when it's hot, just perfect to enjoy, served cold, so it's really refreshing.
So here we have a wine from different vineyards,
Yes.
different soils, but 100% of this variety, Gruner Veltliner.
Yes.
Okay, what kind of soils do we usually see in the vineyards that you had? And what is the expression of them?
We have in the Kremstal, we have like 3 sub-regions, because the area overall, you have a lot of different influences. So you have the part south, the Danube River, south of Krems, city of Krems, where you have a climate that's a little bit more influenced by the Danube River, and also mainly gravel soil. Then you have the eastern part of Krems, which is mainly influenced by loess soil, and is also compared to Senftenberg like 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks earlier in the ripening, a little bit depending on the vintage. And then you have the western part, where you mainly find primary rock soil in Senftenberg. And the main part of our vineyards is between the city of Krems and Senftenberg. So we have like a part of the vineyards that have influence of loess soil. On the top of the slopes, you find pretty often a gravel soil, and in Senftenberg you have mainly or mostly schist.
I didn't ask you how many hectares has the winery in total.
So in total we count currently a little bit over 30 hectares of vineyards.
30, okay.
And in former times, we had a lot more producers in the wine growing area, and the producers in general were a lot smaller. But I think nowadays, the wineries all have a certain size, I think. And I think especially when you have very challenging vintages, a certain kind of size is always beneficial, because it's easier to actually select and get the best quality when you have a little bit more vineyards,
Can you tell us a little bit more about the shape of the bottle? Because we see only this kind of shape of bottle in the wines from Austria and Germany. Is there any history behind it?
I think it's just like the typical bottle for Austrian wine. I think this bottle shape.
And Alsace, of course, I'm sorry, yeah.
And I think, it's just typically, historically we have had these bottles. Maybe the bottles certainly changed, but it's more like for our area. It's more for like I would say like Lower Austria. In other wine growing areas, you find different shapes of bottles. Maybe if you go to Styria, you have other bottles, and also in the Burgenland, you have other bottles depending on the variety. You also find Burgundy bottles for the Burgundy varieties, or also like Bordeaux bottles. But this is mainly like the bottle for Grüner Veltliner and Riesling.
Should we open? No, I wanted to ask because it might be quite hard for some people to read the labels on Austrian wines because you have names on your own. For example, trocken, that means dry, correct?
Yes.
How can we detect? Because now we have Gruner here, but in Riesling we can find some residual sugar inside of the wine. How can we say by reading a label if a wine is sweet, of dry, or dry?
In Austria, you find the terms like halbtrocken or süß on the bottle, and if it's trocken or dry on the bottle, it's a dry wine, and the other things are like off dry. Yeah.
Can we detect this by the alcohol percentage that we see?
No, we don't have a history like in Germany where you find like cabinet with just like 8.0 alcohol. So I think it's not very typical to have a Grüner Veltliner like the typical Grüner Veltliners are dry.
Do you produce wine as Spätlese, Auslese?
Not Spätlese, not Auslese, but we produce like BAs, TBAs, or ice wine.
Can we say what this is? Birnauslese, Trockenbeerenauslese, can we say the differences?
So we have like two main ways or three ways to produce sweet wines. And the two most popular, like you have the botrytis. Botrytis is a fungi that actually evaporates the water from the berry, and the berry shrinks, and you have a concentration because of the loss of the water of the grape juice that is left. And if it's in Austria with 25 degree close to Neuburger Mostwaage, which is like the measurement for the residual sugar, or not residual, for the sugar in the berries, and you need at least 25 to have a Birnauslese. And if the berries are very, very concentrated, if you have over 30 degree close to Neuburger Mostwaage, you get a TBA. But if we produce a TBA, we normally look for a very high concentration. So sometimes it can also go above 40 or something. Yeah.
So if I get this right, as we said, botrytis is a fungus that you find in the areas closer to the water, or if there's a high percentage of humidity, for example.
And if you get a lot of rainfall, and it's also, for me, it's also a nutrition situation in the vineyards, when you have vineyards that have very good soil, and and it's raining, there's a certain tendency that these grapes will get, depending on the quantity of the rain and also the time, how long the grapes are wet, that you get botrytis. But in general, I would say these are all conditions that benefit the botrytis. But sometimes we have harvest periods like in 2023 or 21 where we do not get a lot of rain. And sometimes we have...
Same thing here.
We have very foggy weather, and with the fog, with the high humidity during the whole day, you get botrytis a little bit easier, yeah.
And this thing makes a small hole in the grape, so all the water evaporates and the sugar remains inside?
Yes, it's in general, at that part, the skin color changes. It's getting more like blue or violet, and it's then shrinking after a certain time period. But the best condition, if we have rain and afterwards it's dry, then you get a very clear botrytis, and that's the highest quality. So I think you should just use botrytis if you really get the high quality botrytis. Not every botrytis is good. If it's raining again and raining again, you get other fungi as well, which are not bringing the best quality. And the other way to produce sweet wine, which is an ice wine, so you get the concentration from the freezing of the berries, is when we need at least -7 degrees Celsius,
Wow.
and then the berry freezes, and you get a concentration because the water stays in the berry, and the juice that is left is extremely concentrated. And you need also at least 25-degree Kosteneuburger Moosberger to produce the ice wine. But for me, the main difference is that for the botrytis, for the BA or TBA, for the sweet wines from botrytis, you have this certain touch of honey, and for the ice wine you have a lot of fruit, and also a very good clarity and precision in the wines. And that's for me the main difference between these two things. And we normally really try to do ice wine from Grüner Veltliner, but the last couple of years it's getting harder and harder. So the last vintage where we produced the ice wine was 2023. There we got, I think on the 4th December, we got -12 degrees. So it's very rare that we have these temperatures for the ice wine, so it worked perfectly. But I think for the future, we see every year that it's getting harder and harder to produce ice wine. And also, this is just 1 or 2 days where it's possible to pick it. And for ice wine in general, the best thing is if you get the -7 degrees as early as possible, so November or December. The longer the grapes stay on the wine, the more challenging it is to keep the grapes healthy. And also, normally we do a certain kind of preparation. So in our area, we have to protect the grapes, because otherwise the birds are eating the grapes. So we have some nets.
Nets, okay.
And we also remove the leaves from the grape stem, from the canopy, just that there is no humidity inside of the canopy. So if there is rain, the grapes can dry very, very fast. And then we wait for the frost, and then we just pick it in the morning hours, and after that we press it. But as I said before, it's getting harder and harder to produce ice wine.
Okay. This year, are you gonna show some new ice wine?
No, this year was quite a challenging vintage because we got a flood during the harvest. But
A flood?
Yes, we had in our area we had 240 liters of rain. But luckily we picked most of the grapes before the flood. We had 70%, I think, already picked, and it was really depending a little bit on the area where you're located. So it was not the easiest vintage, but I think the qualities are now very, very good. I think we had during the whole summer months we had enough rain, so we have a very good nutrition situation in the vineyard. So the wines, I think, are very aromatic. Have a good depth. And after the rain, we thought that we will get really, really a lot of botrytis, but we could keep the grapes for at least 4 more weeks for some vineyards on the wines. So we really got very good ripening for this as well. And for us, for the picking, it's always very important for us to get the ripening into the cooler growing season. So we really try to pick as late as possible with healthy grapes. And in certain vintages, we pick from September until the end of November. And this year we started a little bit earlier with sparkling wine, I think on the 20th of August. And then we finished at the end of October with Grüner Veltliner. But this year the challenge was Grüner Veltliner was very, very good with the sugar ripening, but the Rieslings we just saw that the sugar ripening compared to Grüner Veltliner was a lot lower. So you really had to wait and wait and wait until you get a certain kind of sugar ripening.
Wow, you need to do a lot of measurements.
Yes,
there. I didn't ask you, how many labels does the winery produce in Roro?
I think it's depending on the vintage. If you produce a couple of sweet wines, and in general, I would say around 20.
20?
Yeah.
Both white and red and everything?
Yes, sometimes it's a little bit more. Yeah, it's some vintages. When we, for example, 2018, we produced a BA, TBA ice wine I think we also did a Auslese, so it was like, then the volume of labels increases.
First of all, you are the perfect example to say to the audience that sees us, even though if we have a sweet wine, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have acidity. It's quite the opposite. The acidity is very high.
Yes, for the Rieslings, we always have a nice acidity. Or I think it's important.
I would like to open the red wine as well, the Pinot Noir, but while I'm doing it, I would like you to tell me that can you use a small percentage of botrytis to produce dry wines, or is it only for sweet wines?
Yes, but it's always depending a little bit, or you can use quite an amount of botrytis, but I think like 20 years ago, there was a different philosophy on wines or on dry wines with botrytis. Maybe higher percentages were used for the dry wines, or not like today. Today, there are a lot of producers who work without botrytis. I think if you get really a high quality botrytis, it makes sense to use a certain amount. Of course, you get a little bit bolder style of wine, but I think it's also, if you get the high quality botrytis, it's also expression of the vintage. And I think, normally the ripest grapes get botrytis, and I think if you combine it, you get very complex aromas. But
what? How can we detect the botrytis in the nose and the palate?
Honey notes.
Honey?
Yeah, you get and I think sometimes if you have a very powerful Riesling or more powerful Grüner Veltliner with like 5 to 10%, it can add an extra complexity, and I think it's also it works very well with a lot of different cuisines. So, for example, if you have a nice Riesling with a certain kind of botrytis, I think it works really, really well with like a little bit spicier cuisine. If you have like Asian cuisine, because the extract sweetness of the Rieslings balances the spiciness of the food, and also if people do not want to combine this kind of wines with or a dessert wine with the desserts, I think it's also a good choice to maybe take a little bit more powerful Riesling with a certain amount of botrytis, and I think it balances perfectly. So for the classic Austrian dishes like pancakes with apricot jam or apricot dumplings, it works very, very well.
You told me that the pancakes with the apricot is something traditional that you do?
Yeah, it's like, I think everybody loves it in our area, so it's a very classic dish. It's like the dish when you came to your grandmother, she always prepared like the pancakes with apricots, and when you were children, we were just sitting there eating pancakes. It's very,
you were eating pancakes.
Like the grandma dish.
We were eating αυγόφετες.
Yeah.
My grandma used to make, she took a slice of bread, she put it in egg yolk, and then she put sugar inside, and then she was deep frying it. Τηγανιτά δεν είναι, οι αυγόφετες? Τηγανιτές είναι.
Deep fried το βάζεις μέσα στο γάλα.
Αυτό είναι, fried. It's something like French toast, yeah, with sugar. That's what we had. Yeah, it's kind of different.
I think every country has its own classic dishes. Or
You know what? In the nose is amazing, the Pinot Noir. Cheers to that too.
cheers.
It's quite peppery in the nose.
Yes.
Όπως βλέπετε έχουμε ποτήρι συγκεκριμένο για το Pinot Noir, το οποίο είναι μπαλούνι, ανοίγει αρκετά προς τα κάτω και πάνω κλείνει, έχει ένα σχήμα του λίπας, ας το πούμε, για να μην αφήνει τα αρώματα τους εστέρες να φεύγουν. Είναι πολύ συγκεκριμένα τα ποτήρια για το Pinot Noir, που αξίζει πάρα πολύ κάποιος να τα έχει στη συλλογή του για να μπορέσει να απολαύσει αυτού του είδους την ποικιλία. Tell me a little bit more about this wine, because it's amazing.
It's not like the most typical variety of our area, but my father's favorite red variety is Pinot Noir, so he decided like 15 years ago to plant the Pinot Noir, and it's growing on one of the steepest slopes in our area. The vineyard is called Penningberg, which means like penny slope, because every penny there needs to be earned super hardly because it's super steep and just stones. So it's really a challenge for the wines and also for the winemakers to work there. And the reason why we planted Pinot Noir there is because we have a higher chalk content there in the soil. Due to that, it works perfectly for Pinot Noir.
Same as Burgundy as well.
Yes, and we have primary rock soil there, and I think because of that, we always get a very nice minerality in the Pinot Noir as well. And you know, many producers are struggling that that they get maybe botrytis for the Pinot Noir, but at the Penningberg we always have a very loose grape structure, so we can pick really late for the Pinot Noir, and maybe we pick really late for Pinot Noir. So in general, we really try to get the ripening to the cooler season for the Pinot Noir as well. You know, many people are picking a little bit earlier because they want to keep certain kind of freshness. But I think in Senftenberg, because of the cooler climate, the wines in general, even if you pick late, always have a certain kind of freshness. And I think in all our wines in the area, you find a certain kind of drinkability. So I think that's very important. Sometimes you have very impressive wines that are maybe very rich from the volume for the body, and very bold, and they maybe are very impressive at the first taste. But if you want to drink a whole bottle, or if you want to spend the evening with the wine, it's maybe not so easy to enjoy it because it lacks maybe a little bit of freshness. And I think a certain kind of drinkability and freshness in the wines is very important. So I really like it when a wine has power and density, but also has a refreshing aspect as well, or part in the wine. It's very important, and I think you find it also in the Pinot Noir.
That's why you don't use oak at all?
No, for the Pinot Noir we use oak.
You use?
It's
Okay.
for the reds we use a little bit new oak. But
A new oak as well?
yes.
For how long?
No, it's just a part of it. So we have like one part is like 1/3 is new oak, 1/3 is like second usage, and 1/3 is like a third usage. So you have like a certain kind of influence of the tannin of the barrels, but it's not like too much. I think it's always important for the Pinot Noir to keep the elegance and the fruit, and not to over oak it. That's for me a little bit sometimes the challenge. And the Pinot Noir is fermented 100% on the stems, so no destemming.
Okay.
But we normally have ripe stems, so you do not get like these green tannins from the stems. And I think due to that, maybe in the youth, the wines are a little bit harder to drink, but we now have vintage 2019. And I think if you take a long-term view on the wine, it's better to use all the stems, because you get a more complex Pinot Noir and a wine that is aging a lot better. And for this category of wine, we really want that you can also age the wine very well. Of course, I was never a big fan when people said, "Oh, you need to store this wine like 10 years or 20 years." I think a wine needs to be good in the youth and when you age. Of course, for the red wines, maybe tannin gets softer, but I think for the white wines, you also see the quality also in the youth. Of course, it's more dominated by the primary fruit, but you get the depth, the minerality, the length as well also in the youth.
It's quite smooth. It's both of the wines are very drinkable now. But for the white wines, you don't use oak or different kind of style. You use tanks or wooden vats. What do you do?
We have, for the white wines, use, except the Chardonnay, if we use oak, we use big oak barrels, like 2,500 liters, and only used barrels. So barrels where you do not get really an influence of the oak, because we do not want an oak taste in the wines. For us, it's more about the micro-oxygenation in the wine, so that the wine kind of evolves a little bit faster, or we want to support the ripening of the wine. And especially for like the classic category, like the Gärtling, we ferment and age in the stainless steel tanks, because this for us are wines where we want to keep the freshness and the fruit and the allergens. Due to that, for that category, we use the oak barrel, not the oak barrel, the stainless steel tank. And I think it's really depending on the category of wine that you're having.
What is your philosophy, though, in the winery? As a wine producer, what do you want the people to think or to feel when they tasting your wines?
I think, you should have fun. It's just, I think, sometimes the wine world gets pretty complicated. And I think we always, pretty often we put like a couple of bottles when we meet together with some friends. And I always say the best wine of this is the one that's empty the first. And I think it's just a wine that you do not have to think about so much. It's just a wine that you just enjoy drinking. Just have fun and enjoy.
So you don't like to talk a lot about a wine? You just...
Yeah, of course you can, but I think the really great wines are just very impressive and you just enjoy them. I think you do not have to talk much about them.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I agree with you. You said that Pinot Noir is one of the favorite varieties of your father. What is your favorite variety?
I think it's always depending a little bit on the...
Maybe it's not planted yet, but you want to plant it and produce wines out of it.
No, I think I think we're very lucky with Grüner Veltliner and Riesling. It's
Okay.
I'm really a big Riesling fan. But I think Grüner Veltliner is a very food-friendly variety, and the Austrian cuisine is pretty powerful cuisine sometimes. And I think if you have like in Austria like a really nice Wiener Schnitzel, very well made, and a really nice Grüner Veltliner is just the perfect pairing.
Tell us, give us an example. Give us a food that you like. That we obviously don't know it because we don't have it here. What is the style of your cuisine there?
In our area we also have like a lot of potatoes, and also very like a very popular dishes like potato dumplings filled with crams, and it's
Filled with what?
with crams.
What is this?
I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a very typical dish in Austria, and it's I think it's really a dish that works perfectly to.
It's meat on the inside. What is it?
No, it's not meat. It's
The skin of the pork.
yeah, but the fat. It's
The fat. It's okay. So it's quite fatty and oily. So with the potatoes.
Yes.
And you have a sauce on it or not?
No.
Okay.
And it's also a powerful dish, but it works very, very well. And sometimes you just get the potato dumpling with like pork, and it's also a very powerful dish.
I wouldn't have it with this one.
No, with a more powerful.
It's quite fresh for this one.
Now, what go to a more powerful style of Grüner Veltliner.
Okay.
So like this is like our classic category, but we also have some more powerful styles, and maybe like pelling and aged for like 5 years, it works very well.
I assume that because of the cold that you have up there, all your dishes are quite heavy and fatty.
But yes, of course, they have a certain kind of power. But I think in general now, the new chefs, there's a certain tendency to maybe to have a concentration in the dishes, but maybe have a little bit lighter side dishes and stuff like that. So I think in general, it's of course we have a powerful cuisine, but they try to keep a certain kind of lightness in the dishes. Sometimes some dishes are newly interpreted, and I think in general it's getting a little bit lighter.
Okay. I didn't tell you, but 3 lucky people will get the chance to taste these wines that we're having here. 3 τυχεροί. Και ευχαριστούμε την Deals για αυτό. Θα το βγάλουμε και στο Instagram ως διαγωνισμός, giveaway. 3 τυχεροί θα πάρουν τα 2 κρασιά που πίνουμε τώρα εμείς αυτή τη στιγμή. Οπότε θα μπορέσετε να καταλάβετε ακριβώς γιατί μιλάμε. Οι υπόλοιποι θα βρείτε σίγουρα αυτές τις ετικέτες σε εστιατόρια και κάβες, και υπάρχει και άλλη μεγάλη γκάμα εννοείται από το οινοποιείο Nigl που μπορείτε να βρείτε σε αυτές. Και αυτό που υπάρχει σε μεγαλύτερη ποσότητα στην Ελλάδα είναι το Grüner Veltliner, το οποίο θέλουμε και ως ποικιλία να τη γνωρίσετε κι εσείς λίγο παραπάνω, γιατί έχει τρομερό ενδιαφέρον. I said everything in Greek, I'm sorry. Have you tried something here in these days? What was your favorite plate or your favorite restaurant that you visited?
I really enjoyed all the restaurants. I have to think. But yesterday we had a squid. It was really, really good because it's something we never get. It's really, really rare to get in Austria. We had
Squid or seafood in general?
Yeah, seafood you get, but squid it's not that you get very often. And we also had a really good omelette. It's at another restaurant at the Ex Machina, and it was also very, very good.
Okay.
And the squid at the soil, I really liked it. But we also had like a dish, like a cracker with dry-aged beef. I also like this a little bit more powerful cuisine. But I love it that you have always, when you have like the dishes, it was all, you had like some powerful parts, but also some parts that also brought a lot of freshness in the dishes. So it was very good to eat the menu.
Yeah, we try to do that here, especially when you pair wines. You need to have all of the layers of the flavor in order to do the perfect pairing, as perfect as it gets. Do you travel a lot? Or you don't have the time because of the winery?
Actually, I tried to travel a little bit more, and I think it's, you know, you also see new cultures, and I think it's very interesting. But you know, because of our hotel and the winery at home, the time where you can really travel is quite little time slots, I would say. And due to that, you know, with the restaurant we have so many events, and also during the winter months we have. We do a lot with the guests at the hotel and the restaurants. So we do a lot of vineyard walks, then doing tasting afterwards, and we also have different menus where we have chefs and other winemakers in the restaurant, and you know, but it's very nice. I like it. Also, Austria is beautiful. It's the whole country. You know, going skiing in the west of Austria, visiting Vienna. You always see new things, new restaurants that are opening, and I think it's good to be home, but also it's very important to see new things around the world.
Of course.
And luckily, Austrian wine is getting more popular internationally. Due to that, we are able to see a lot of new countries also during our work.
Did you get an influence from another winery or another, I don't know, country?
You know, I did most of my internships in Germany. So I think
Makes sense.
I have a certain kind of influence of my internships in Germany.
In which part did you get the?
I was at the Nahe and once at the Bodensee. During my internship at the Bodensee, I was actually pretty young. At the Nahe, I was a little bit older, so I did 2 internships there at 2 great wineries, and I think you know, they always had a very clear vision on their wines. It was always very precise, very elegant, very mineral, and I think this is definitely what I always loved about these wines, because we try a lot of wines at home, and I always like the style of wines because it's so crystal clear and like laser sharp, and I think this is also a certain kind what we're trying with Grüner Veltliner and Riesling. Of course, at the Nahe you find mostly Riesling, but I think...
Are there big differences between these countries? I mean, what are these differences on the wines between Germany and Austria? Since you both produce Riesling.
I think you have different styles that are produced in the countries and different philosophies on the wines in general. So, you know, they have a lot more tradition on off-dry wines. Cabernet, Auslese and Spätlese are pretty popular there. In Austria, I think it's more about really dry Rieslings. But I think also in Germany, the volume of dry wines is increasing. But yeah, I think it's hard to compare these 2 areas. I think the main difference is just the cultural part, and also like the climate situation at Nahe is also there, later ripening there. And I just love this region. But for me, what I saw there, you know, it's really about getting the ripening into the cool growing season. It's they have just a cooler climate, and I think you find this aromas also in the wines, and that's also what we try in the winery, to really get the ripening into the cooler growing season.
When is the best time to visit Austria?
The whole year.
The whole year?
Of course, you can in the winter. You can go skiing, do some après-ski. It's beautiful. And
For me, that I don't want to get cold.
yeah, then you can just relax. We have the hotels in Austria are amazing. They have a very good wellness infrastructure. So you can just sit outside in a pool that is heated and enjoy the view.
Okay.
So no, you can go really for Austria the whole year. So visit maybe like Vienna, see the historical parts of Vienna, or maybe visit Salzburg. And also maybe in the winter months, of course, it's also great to see the skiing regions. And I would say like between March and October, it's beautiful to also visit the wine regions because then you see the whole nature in evolving. And as I said before, I really love autumn in Austria because it's just when the leaves change the colors, it's just so beautiful.
Usually, when do you do the harvest so I can come and help?
It's a little bit depending on the vintage. This year was very early for us, so we started like at the end of August.
Okay.
And normally we start like in the middle of September, and then until.
And it goes like what, February for the ice wine?
We try to avoid that, but normally I would say like the end of December. So the last times the ice wine was always picked in December. I can't remember really when that we picked the ice wine that late.
Are you familiar with the Greek varieties?
Yes, during the time, before my visit here, I just knew the variety Assyrtiko. But we tried some other varieties and also a sparkling Assyrtiko. And we also tried like the variety Vilina from Crete. Vilina, I think this was.
Viviano. Villana, maybe.
Yeah, Villana, yes. Villana.
Okay.
Sorry for my pronunciation.
No,
it's the first time that I tried.
Mine German is worse, so you don't worry.
Yeah, it's very interesting also to see these varieties. But I think in general the wines are always a little bit more powerful. And it's really, I always love to try varieties that I don't know. It's and in Austria you mainly find, or most of the time that I tried Greek wine was always Assyrtiko.
Okay.
Because I think, you have always a good acidity and, also a little bit more powerful wine, but with a good freshness.
We had that conversation the other day that we said Greek people are not used to acidity. That's why they're not familiar with Austrian wines, Gruner, Riesling. But I strongly disagree because we are familiar because of Assyrtiko, for example, or Robola, as I said. As a variety. So I really think that it's a really nice opportunity now that you're here for many people to try to discover and taste different things from Austria, such as Gruner, because it is a little bit softer and I think it goes really well with a Greek palate that we have. And for you to try something different while you're here.
Yes.
I wanted to thank you very much. Do a cheers. I want to do a cheers with a Gruner that I really liked it. And I really hope many people will try to find it and taste it because it's an amazing variety with so many potentials. Thank you very much for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting us. And I think it's very interesting to try Austrian wine, and I think it's the quality of Austrian wine over the last decades developed really, really well. And I think if you ever have the chance to try Austrian wine, you have to definitely do it because I think there's a really great wines and really wines with a great aging potential.
For sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Your wines are amazing. Σας ευχαριστούμε και εσάς που ήσασταν μαζί μας για άλλη μια φορά σε αυτό το πολύ πολύ ιδιαίτερο επεισόδιο, όπως είδατε και εσείς. Είχα αυτή τη μεγάλη χαρά να έχω εδώ τον Martin Nigl από την Αυστρία. Ψάξτε να βρείτε όποιο κρασί μπορείτε από την Αυστρία, γιατί πραγματικά έχουν τρομερές δυνατότητες αυτά τα κρασιά και είναι Το πιστεύω πολύ ότι είναι κοντά στη δική μας παλέτα, οπότε θα σας αρέσουν πάρα πολύ. Κάντε like, subscribe, τα είπα και στην αρχή, να μας βοηθήσετε λίγο παραπάνω. Σίγουρα θέλω τα σχόλιά σας για αυτό το επεισόδιο, αν σας άρεσε, για να έρθουν πολλά ακόμα ίδια. Μέχρι την επόμενη φορά, ήμουν η Σοφία Τσίκου. Γεια σας και στην υγεία σας. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Let it roll, let it roll.